The law finally caught up. Every AAA is in trouble. Ooh, this video kind of popped off. 1.3 million views 6 days ago, okay? I'm not familiar. I've been kind of out of the loop of the general, like, gaming sphere at the moment. I want to know what is happening. What laws are changing? Is it going to affect gacha games? Let's see how in this shit we are all in right now. Let's take a peek at this video.
Bombshell for the games industry. This is one of those things that can have true impact, so let me explain. What just happened is the European Union just rewrote the rules on premium currency in games. Of course, that's the home of...
Oh god, Gacha is screwed. Wait, immediately, it's over for Gacha. Wait, hang on, premium currency? Oh no.
Ubisoft, of CD Projekt, of DICE, of Remedy, and so many other companies. And make no mistake, the new rules that they have just laid out could change gaming utterly. Actually change the games that you play. So you know those bundles where you've got to buy more currency than the item that you want costs? Or perhaps the idea of limited time events, of no refund.
No! Oh god! Oh god, is it over? Oh god, is it over? Oh Jesus.
Funds and digital purchases. These are all being fought against by legislators. And when the EU takes action, it's a large enough block that it can reverberate around the world.
True, EU gang rise up. Thank you to all my EU frogs. We rise up, okay? This is war. We are now engaging in war. That's it. Listen, I mean, this is my message to all of you, okay? We are now engaging, all my gacha friends, we are now engaging with war with the European Union. They cannot take away our premium predatory currency. They cannot take away our premium predatory currency. No, sirree. I want to spend money and pull all these gacha characters and buy the primos and the Astarites and the limited banners and all that good things that make gacha a gacha game in 2025. We will find the... Okay. That's enough of that. That's enough of being silly. I'm sorry. That's enough of being that. That's too... Okay. We got a bit too silly. We got a little bit too silly. My bad. Okay, carry on.
And as evidence... how's that USB-C charger on our phone working out? There's a lot to talk about. Strap in. This one could actually, honestly, be pretty fucking good. Oddly enough, you've got EU legislation to thank for the standard...
Yeah, oh, I forgot. I'm British, so I'm not part of the European Union anymore. Yeah, and you know, fuck you, EU frogs! Yeah, I'm British! I forgot about that. Fuck the EU. Yeah, we don't abide by your rules. Yeah, fuck you. Give me my primos. Fuck. God, I forgot.
phone charger situation, and for many, the ability to play ROMs on their iPhone. But now we seem to have EU legislation to thank for premium currency being threatened, so here's what went on. In September 2024, the EU proposed the Digital Fairness Act that was targeting all the practices online that make using digital services miserable, and in particular, it called out dark patterns in video games as one of the targets, and that's basically the gross manipulative techniques that trick and strong-arm money out of people, obviously, especially
it's like you know those practices where like do you know what, never mind,
to people who are not yet adults. And this is fairly weighty because in the EU alone, games are obviously big business. Revenues have been going up in the EU. Online game spending in 2018 represented 74% of turnover.
People are more willing to spend little and often rather than a lot in one go. And that's why games are making way more money than usual, right? Battle passes, premium currencies. I'll just spend $5 here. Oh, I'll just spend a $5 there. That's how they get you. That's how they get you. That's how they make their money. Little and often is better than $100 in one go.
From online revenue, and 83% by 2022. That's all of those fun, dark patterns actually working and getting digital currency money out of people. But those dark patterns target the most vulnerable people the most. And there's no one more vulnerable in the eyes of the law than children. Children who spend an average of €31 a month on online games, according to data from Video Games Europe.
Honestly, that's like a fair bit of money. 31 a month on online games is a fair bit of money.
Well, that's actually went
By
down from
children.
2023. I guess that's good. Everyone's feeling a little bit of the economic pinch, but it's not stopped the EU from taking action to protect kids, basically, from predatory premium currency models. And in situations like this, there's often a great offender, right, that is held up as an example of something doing everything wrong. So you might wonder, is it an Activision game? Is it Ultimate Team from the EA football games? Maybe it was Roblox. No, today, it's a game about horses. It's called Star Stable. You've probably never heard of it.
Holy fuck.
But if this all
What
does
is this?
turn out good, we'll have the horse girls to thank. This is Star Stable Online. It comes from a Swedish developer called Star Stable Entertainment.
This is the most white girl game I've ever seen. This is the most white girl game I've ever fucking seen. What the fuck is this? I was expecting maybe like a gacha game. Oh my god, what is this?
And it is the game that may have just rewritten rules and monetization in the EU. So yeah, thanks, horse girls. Now, it turns out that Star Stable just uses all of the premium currency tactics in the book, which makes it a pretty awesome example, right? Especially because it is targeted at a younger audience.
Holy
shit.
shit.
In March 24, the Swedish Consumer Agency filed a complaint with the EU-wide Consumer Protection Cooperation Network. That's a mouthful. And that complaint alleged that Star Stable Entertainment were targeting children and using harmful commercial practices that breached EU consumer regulations. Now, the findings corroborated much of those allegations. They found that the game made direct appeals to children in their ads, that they were using pressuring techniques like FOMO, which is particularly despicable when it's not, on adult.
I mean, direct appeals to children, the advertisements. I mean, how many gacha games do we know do that? Specifically games like Genshin Impact, right? Urging them to buy or persuade adults to buy for them in-game currency items. Yep, 1,000,000% gachas fall under that. The use of pressuring techniques such as purchase through limited time practices. That is literally all of them. That's every banner ever. That's literally every banner ever. And nothing is as more prominent than right now, Honkai Star Rail, right? You log into the game, immediately you're greeted with the buy screen, 20% off. Oh my god, deal, buy now, right? Limited time practices, 1,000,000%. A lack of clear and transparent information adapted to children about buying and using in-game virtual currency, leading consumers to spend more than they intend to. We know that. We see the packs that they offer. We see that you get your double top-ups, right? The double top-ups that then go to your single top-ups, and people end up spending a copious amounts of money on these virtual, bundles. Failure by the company to ensure that the influencers promoting their products clearly disclose commercial content and do not fully influence children with their marketing techniques. Ooh, all those Genshin Impact. I say I'm target Genshin Impact. Let's be real. It's every fucking gacha game, right? I'm just saying Genshin because it's just funny. But all like a bunch of CCs, what do? We make a lot of content about these games and how fun they are and why these characters are great and cracked and why you need them and why this is the best character you should pull for. Let's be real. What are we doing? We are kind of advertising how good this shit is, And
there was a lack of transparency on purchases and loads more things. I mean, here's an example of one that's particularly rough. They were responsible for influencers promoting the game to kids without any disclosure of the spending risk. So, in short, it's bloody well damning. Star Stable Entertainment now have a month to address complaints and propose solutions with their game, but what matters for our purposes today is the Consumer Protection Cooperation Network, we can just call the CPCN. They have laid out what they want. So I'll spell it out via an example. This is what should happen in the ideal world. You, dear gamer, want to buy yourself a new horse. You see that your new horse costs 300 star coins. The store tells you that's around £5, so it just lets you buy 300 coins exactly. You buy exactly what you need for the horse, rather than the current bundles that exist of 200 coins or 400 coins.
Yep, or maybe, your $100 packs in these gachas that get you, 10, 15 pulls? They never give you enough to actually have enough pulls to buy the characters outright. It's like, hey, maybe you'll get a character, maybe you won't during this amount of, pity period. They always should be, I'm in agreement, there should always be an option of, you want this character, okay, here's how much it will cost you. But that's not how they're gonna make their money, is it? That doesn't give you the dopamine rush that everyone talks about by will you score big or not. It's not as fun when you know it's guaranteed, right? That's what the retards say. Oh, but it's just not as fun when you know it's guaranteed. I want a 50-50. I want to lose. I want pities. Okay.
Meaning that you always have to buy with some wastage, which just ends up giving the company more money. So in short, no obfuscation bullshit, no weird tactics. And worst of all for these companies, this will have them bloody well shaking. You'd have to have a refund policy, both for the coins and the horse.
Holy.
And none of this would be pitched.
Imagine Gacha's having a refund policy. Trying out Cancerous for a day and then be like, nah, I'm good, you refund, get $300 back. Getting 300. Can you imagine? Can you imagine these gacha companies? They will never be able to make a shit character again. They will never be able to release a bad character because people just immediately refund them. Can you imagine? Nah, actually this character's kind of dog shit. I don't like it anymore. Refund. Wait, Cancerella does 0 damage right now? Refund. Wait, this weapon doesn't do anything for Brant? Refund. Crazy.
It's a limited time.
Oh no, but you pull Brant, realize you do need his weapon, and it's like, fuck it. I was gonna refund the fucker.
And where you have got to get the thing right now. So that's an example then of how these policies should be applied, and each is indeed a massive win for consumers. But that would not matter if this amounted to nothing. You could look at all this and think, right, so some Swedish horse game has got a slap on the wrist. No, it's more than that. This seems to have backbone. So here's the big important bit. These solutions are the backbone of what the European Consumer Organization calls key principles for trustworthy gaming environments. And these could cause huge problems for anyone who is using premium currency. When I say this could shake the foundations of the game industry economy, I absolutely mean it. So these, which I'm going to spell out for you, are the minimum requirements for purchasing and using virtual currencies in the EU. And what's neat is the philosophy behind them. So the CPCN considers these premium currencies as an equivalent to the real money that is used to purchase them. And that for them means that they are just as worthy of legal scrutiny. So you can see how that is.
Ooh. Okay, so just because you have a virtual currency does not mean then you can use some shady practice with them. It gets treated as actual, like fiat currency at that point.
Is in a way a mindset shift that paves the way for actually.
At that point, it's like, what's the incentive to have a premium currency in the first place, right? The reason why premium currencies exist is to mentally separate you from the money you spend versus the currency that you get, right? It's like, oh, you could spend 15-20 bucks and suddenly you have 3,000 fuck what gems. You have 3,000 majiggly-boos, right? It's like, oh, I've got 3,000 majiggly-boos. That's a lot of majiggly-boos. Turns out you need 100,000 of them or something, actually, right? It's a psychological tactic of separating the actual money you spend and what you get. So it feels like you're not actually spending as much money. It's completely a psychological tactic. And because of that, they're able to implement little sneaky things in their monetization system to make you not realize how much you're spending. And yeah, 3K McMuffins. 3K McMuffins. So it's fine. I'm not spending real money, and it's a lot, so it's fine, right? But really, it should just be, everything should have a monetary, actual fiat currency, like value attached to it, right? Right? Like, oh, like you want to spend like 10 pulls is fucking 15 pounds or $15 or whatever, 15 bucks, whatever you want to call it, right? That's what it should be. It should be, we should just get rid of premium currency altogether. Doesn't make sense. That would be the first step. Honestly, that would be the first step into making this less predatory. You could actually see how much you're spending every single time. Second would be to make sure you could buy everything outright and how much that costs. It's honestly, all of this is about making sure the consumer is informed on what they're making and making it blindly obvious of what you're buying and what you're actually spending money on. That's really what's happening here.
Treating these as they are. So just think about the last game that you played that had a premium currency in it. Whatever that game is, I want you to keep it in mind. And with that in your mind, I'm now going to go through the various different practices that this targets. So, prices for premium currency packs that are a little more than the available product. So you've got to buy extra coins, extra gems, whatever it may be. Obfuscation of how much currency is worth by always pairing currency with other items or multiple currency options.
How do you translate currency through events into pulls then? That's a very good question. That's a very good question that I don't have the answer to right now. That is it. That's something that I don't have the answer to right now.
As an example, I think World of Warcraft may actually fall.
Oh, that's true. Actually, no, that's a good point. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, rather than currency, you just get the pulls. No, that's Fig, you're so right. You just get the pulls. No currency to exchange for pulls. You just get the pulls or the equivalent of. That's exactly it.
For that because it includes Trader's Tender in one of the new mount bundles. Another one, a complete lack of a refund option for making currency purchases or even for in-game items. So there would have to be a refund policy. That's something none of us are used to in these games. Also, FOMO practices to encourage buying. Those are going to be looked at. So
yeah, gachas are fucked. Yeah, no, FOMO practices, all you have to do is look at Honkai Star Rail and cancerous right now just to see like the sheer level of FOMO practices. The amount of trailers they put out, shoving it in your face as soon as you log in every single time. The fact that limited banners even exist could be considered a FOMO practice, right? Having that regulated is going to be insane. Is going to be insane. So every gacha then needs to get rid of the daily system. No, you can still have the daily system, but again, you don't get currency, you just get pulls. You do all your dailies, there's one pull. Maybe a standard pull, maybe a limited pull, whatever it is, right? That's probably what they'll do.
Some of those may no longer be allowed. And all of these practices are now something that the EU can hold against developers and publishers. Even more so if the parental controls of said game are not up to scratch. So it's less a case of me saying, can you think of any game that falls into those categories? And it's more me saying, can you think of a game that doesn't fall into those criteria? It's fairly humongous, which might indeed be the...
Gachas are the biggest offender, but so many other games fall into this, right? Fortnite, anything that has like virtual currency falls into this. We're just very familiar with gacha. They do it the worst. They do it the worst out of everybody.
Point here, we know this is something the EU have been thinking about in other circumstances than just Star Stable. As an example, in September 2024, the European Consumer Organization published a report.
No gachas in EU, but you could have a casino on every corner. Yeah, but you have to be at least 18 to go into a casino, right? You have to be at least 18 to go into a casino. So at that point, you could make the argument that like, well, you're an adult, you can make an adult decisions. You know the risks you're going into. When you play these games that loads of kids play and use other people's money, it's a different story, right? It's a different story.
On popular online games, and in that report they targeted Diablo 4, EA Sports FC 24, Minecraft, Fortnite, and a bunch of others, and it was all about how the virtual currencies work. They were not thrilled on what they found in those games, right? Because many of them, well, they did the same things that, you know, Star Stable did that we do not like. And that straight up means we can say that Electronic Arts and Blizzard Entertainment are being directly targeted by this body. That really is something. So it's no wonder that the BEUC will be holding workshops to help European companies implement these new principles. Because it seems they may actually have to implement them. Everything that they previously thought was acceptable pretty much now isn't. And that, here's the shocking thing, that's not my commentary. That is what the industry response has been. So we know they are shaking in their boots. It ain't surprising the industry bodies aren't thrilled about this, and a big shout out to one of our Belgrade Games members, Neo Nebulosa, for directing us to this stuff. So the European Game Developers Federation and the Video Games Europe, or two groups basically, they've published a joint statement that expresses their disappointment with the findings. Let's read their statement. Quote, "We are disappointed by the lack of engagement from the CPC network in creating these principles, which introduce new legal theories and misguided interpretations of EU consumer law that will create confusion and disruption for European customers." Sidebar, oh no, we're going to be disrupted by by sort of annoying predatory stuff going away. What an awful disruption.
That is wild. It's like, oh, we're gonna have to like think about new systems to implement into our games to make it less predatory. Oh, fuck. Arguably, right, you could say that yes, it's going to take a long time for those systems to change. It's not something you could just change overnight, right? And I'm sure it's going to be something that actually they're probably going to fight back on. I'd hazard a guess that they're going to actually fight back against any of these changes rather than subjugate themselves to it. Because think of a game like HoYo, right? Do you think HoYo is going to change its monetization system because of the EU? Fuck no. They make most of their money in China, right? And Japan. They'll be like, okay, EU. Like, they're not going to... I really don't think they're going to change for the EU. I don't. Like, as much as, like, we want to see it happen... that I don't see a universe where they change their system because of the EU. I think they would rather just get rid of their game from EU stores than make a change, which is crazy. At that point, people in the EU would just use like a VPN or something. Yeah, they would rather block EU from playing than change anything about the monetization. 1,000,000%, 1,000,000%.
Back to the statement, it will also present a challenge to the industry's future growth and could even deprive millions of consumers access. According to
rules, companies will have to display price showed by their basic pricing point. That's $99 top up. That means one pool costs $2.64, and with the displaying price of character without taking pity, it'll be showing 137 per character for world display is $211. That's like guarantee without pity. But because they have a pity system in the first place, who knows what a fair price will be? Who knows what a fair price should be? It's crazy. It's like, oh, like you could spend the money outright to guarantee the character, or you could go and take a risk at a 50-50. That's still a practice that, like, who knows if they're going to clamp down on as well. Who knows? Who knows?
To their favorite games. Now that last bit is the interesting thing. So
FIFA already did it though. I don't see why. Well, the thing is, okay, you're talking about FIFA. Do you know how big FIFA is in the EU? Like bro, FIFA and the EU go hand in hand, right? It's very different from HoYoverse and Gacha games in the Asian market versus FIFA in the Europe. That like you making this comparison is like comparing like China putting regulations against HoYoverse, right? Yes, then they will do something because that's their main market. EU is FIFA's main market, or probably, right? So it's understandable why they would change for their main market. The whole point is that EU is not HoYo's main. So, like, that's why there's a difference here, right?
Understandably, right? These groups, representing the most powerful players in the industry, did quite like things the way that they were. Change is dangerous, especially to the bottom line, and especially change like this. But in a way, they're not inherently wrong. It is true that audiences do actually understand premium currencies by and large right now, and when implementing currencies, these companies were following, you know, their best legal guidance, and now that guidance has changed. I guess just like how so many phones had like a bespoke charging cable until the rules just changed in the middle of the game. So now they've got to...
Yeah, now iPhones have to have a USB-C. Wahaha! USB-C needers. Okay, I say that I have an iPhone, but yeah, that's a welcome change.
Used to these new rules, and what'll sting is the impact on their bottom line. They're not wrong about the potential impacts of all of this. Now, big companies like Ubisoft can probably absorb the costs of any legal challenges or damage from rebuilding their premium currency systems. They'll probably spend a whole lot to try and figure out ways around these principles. As for smaller companies, well, they may not find that so easy. But where things will be dramatic is the group's final warning, because it's the most threatening one. It's the idea that players in the EU may just be locked out of video games. They'd say with a game like Overwatch, right? That they would simply choose to geo-restrict access to the game rather than...
That's exactly what will happen. It would just be geo-restriction of the game. That's what we just said, 1,000,000%.
And change their monetization model, or to just continue the game as normal and risk EU lawsuits. It could just be they look at the EU and think, you know what, we make enough from the States and other countries, we really don't need them. That being said, the EU population is kinda huge. Overall GDP is obviously a very, very flawed metric, but as an example, right, just Googling this here in 20...
But like, yes, the EU is pretty big, but also the EU has a lot of fucking money, right? And the EU also are wealthy countries, right? There's a lot of wealthy countries in the EU, a lot of people who are willing to spend a lot of money. It's an important market.
2024, the EU's nominal GDP was about 17.9 trillion and 1/6 of global nominal GDP, which is quite a lot of money, and a hell of a lot of that GDP globally will be in other countries like, say, China, where a lot of these companies will not be able to go in and directly monetize. That could actually mean that they will feel the need to change. And in a way, there are two wolves inside me who are fighting, right? I suppose one of them is the pragmatic wolf. The other one is the almost like the last vestiges of some sort of libertarian idealism that says, let the market decide. If the gamers do not like the bad practices, the gamers shall not partake in them, and the market will solve the problem. And I wish that was true, but I feel there's almost a faux idealism in so...
Yeah, that's not happening. People will want stuff, they'll buy. That's it.
Of that, because
they don't care if the practice is the predatory. People want something, they will just simply buy for it. That's just the fact, right? Humans do dumb shit all the time. We do shit that isn't good for us all the time. Why? Because we want to. We know something is bad and predatory, yet we still do it. Why? We're humans, you know? We do dumb shit.
As these psychological hooks, these psychological triggers, they do actually work. We're in a world where you can very easily make, I think, some sound enough, philosophical arguments very much against regulation and all of that. And I totally get that. I'm fairly sympathetic towards that in many cases. But the thing is, we've also got to be pragmatic. And a part of that is being a bit humble about the human condition. And the fact of the matter is, these practices are not popular. People do not like them. Yet, people's behavior does continue. And these obviously are bad.
It's almost like we're all hypocrites. It's almost like we're all hypocrites. Holy shit. It's almost, we've come full bloody circle. We've come full bloody circle with this one. It's almost like we're hypocrites. Wild. We are greedy and stupid. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And as people who enjoy video games, we see that as these types of practices derive more and more revenue, they then become what the companies focus on. And that is worse for the actual video games. Because I suppose in a way, how much of game industry revenue comes essentially from psychological manipulation and these various business strategies that are designed to rake in revenue in a way that's not like really tied to the experience of a game that you purchase. We've just seen the share of that increase and increase and increase, and it's no wonder that as that is increased, the rest of us have become less and less satisfied with games. So in a way, if this does hurt the rest...
It is kind of true though, right? We all remember when like games were good. And now it feels like a really good game comes out like every like couple years. Like every year there used to be like cool releases that we'd be excited for. I remember like maybe like 10, 12, 15 years ago where we'd have like events like E3 and we'd be so excited for the games that would be coming out that year, and we couldn't wait to play like a whole bunch of titles that would be exciting. And now it's like, oh, like maybe there's a game coming out that might be terrible, badly written, has all the microtransactions, not really thought out very well. Okay, it's a flop. Oh, okay, got you. You know, like I want to go back to the times where I saw those events and I was like really excited for games to come out. I want to go back to a time where I was excited to see the reveal of these games, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, it's just like, whatever. Yeah, 07 E3, you will be missed. You will be missed. I'm showing my age at this point. I'm showing my age, but like, goddamn. I miss that era of like, just being really like, yeah, I can't wait to play this game, and now I'm just like, okay, another game. Apparently it's bad. Okay, great. You know?
Revenue of a bunch of companies and unfortunately leads to a bunch of job losses because these types of practices are no longer viable. good riddance. Good riddance, absolutely. Let the companies fail, let those jobs go down. How we run things should be a dialogue between the private and public sectors, and in a case like this, I think it's an example of the public sector, right? The people essentially saying, we actually do not like this practice. We don't want this to be the rules of the game. We want the rules of the game to change, to be more robust. And yeah, the market will, once it adapts to that, find a solution. And if the new rule set is a better rule set, then that should be a net good. But of course, none of this will matter if there's no enforcement. Enforcement, because one country making a digital consumer policy often will find difficulty in enforcing it because you're just one little guy, Mr. Belgium, right? That's why even though Belgium has banned loot boxes, so many games simply just ignore that and still operate in the country. Like in World of Warcraft in the new raid, one of the bosses is basically a slot machine boss. We always have the joke that for the person in our team that's in Belgium, that boss just can't drop any loot. I don't know, there's an EU firewall or a Belgian firewall. That's a joke, but you get the point. As much as many people have kind of went, Belgium, you take him down, it hasn't really mattered because it's just Belgium.
Because like how do you, you can't enforce that. What, you gonna geo-restrict to Belgium? No.
Guy, it's a bit different here though. And that's because the EU is, 26 other countries. And also Belgium. In 2023, it was worth 25.7 billion euro in game revenues. That's a lot of revenues. And
that'll be way more in dollars. That'll be like what, like $35 million, billion, fucking whatever it is. That's a lot.
To take on the likes of Apple and Google when their rulings are being defied. They have done that. But more than that, the companies inside the EU are, part of a big global network, and that does mean that whenever USB-C cables become standardized in the EU, they then become standardized everywhere because of manufacturing limitations. I'm sure Apple would have loved to have continued just selling people lightning adapters in the States.
I thought, like, this shit just never made any sense. I could understand why they did it. I know why they did it. You could sell more parts to people. It's less consumer friendly. People have to spend more specific parts using their specific materials. Only certain people can repair those certain parts too. Apple's a whole other ball game, right? Apple's a whole other ball game of like, people talk about predatory practices. Oh boy, and consumer rights and consumer takes. Oh, like right to, if we want to get into the whole right to repair debate, oh boy, that's a whole can of worms. That's a whole can of worms. That's another topic of conversation, but my God. Yeah, this is crazy. This is a good thing, though. Standardization of charging ports it actually means way more than people think. It's very symbolic and means way more than people think.
They seem to have saw the way the wind was blowing and made the big change to USB-C. No one wanted to have, of course, a whole factory just making EU-only phones. And again, thinking about the impact that would have had on the, the whole ecosystem of manufacturing partners, blah, blah, blah. So you can see how with hardware, it does kind of make sense. We can see those software examples where it's not really the same thing. It's not like you can just go and get an emulator for your iPhone in America, but you can in the EU. So the question then is, will developers want to risk losing a large slice of that EU-derived money? Or will they simply have to ship a cut down and less exploitative version of their in-game monetization to European countries? If so, it puts them in a fun...
Imagine in these gacha games, you had to play free-to-play. You had no choice but to play free-to-play. They go rid of all the monetization. It's like, yeah, you have to just play. They would never do that. They would never do that. There is just no shot. Like we said, there is just no shot. They'd rather pull out than do anything like that.
Dilemma where the American gamer may get a transparently worse deal than, say, the European gamer. And then you can say, well, compare your store to mine. My one is a bit more respectful, doesn't have as much FOMO, doesn't have as many tricksy bundles and things that basically feel like a scam. And that'll be a bad look. That's the dilemma that these companies face, and in a way, it's all thanks to a game about horses. So, hero of the day? Horse girls. I guess that's a thing. Okay, tell you what though, if you want another story, another big, grand, juicy story, check out this one. It also hits the EU, but it also hits...
This was a great video. This was a really great video, and I think it ignites a very good topic of conversation. I think it's worth having, especially after the recent debates and dramas that we've all been having recently about like predatory practices. This is kind of like really shining a light on like, okay, things could change. I really doubt they will though. I just really doubt they'll change. I don't see it happening, especially in our world, the gacha world. Yeah, but shout out to all the horse girls for bringing this to attention in the EU space. I just feel it's strange that like the EU hasn't had a response to like the big gacha games. I want to say specifically HoYoverse actually, because they are the biggest. Why they haven't really been targeted before. So kind of interesting. Uma Musume Raid Supreme. I don't mind playing once and get every character for free though. So this just means the EU is just full of brokies. Another American victory. Here's 2 experiences for other players. Yeah, hopefully we'll see. I'll be keeping an eye on this. And see what happens and see any developments in the law, in the legislation. That'll be pretty interesting to come up against. Anyway, this was a bit of a different video. I appreciate you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm live every single day on Twitch.tv, Cabinetz. I'm probably even live right now. Who knows? I appreciate y'all. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.